everybody. This is Jamie, Dr. Jamie Marich with the Institute for Creative Mindfulness, and I would like to welcome you to one of my online videos that will appear in the Facebook sphere or YouTube sphere at some point. This is my good new friend I have met here at the Marich Yoga Institute,
Hello.
Satyavani Gayatri,
Well, hello.
who is an Ayurvedic clinician currently practicing out of Boise, Idaho. And so this is our inaugural videoed version of Tea and Take.
Tea and Take. Cheers.
Cheers. Why don't you tell people how Tea and Take came about?
So, Jamie and I, we are experiencing what is known as prana awakening here at the beautiful Marich Institute in Salt Springs, Florida. And so we had a couple of sessions with some of the senior faculty here and decided we kind of crossed eyes at the cafeteria.
As people do here.
Right, time to eat.
Yep.
And I said, I'd be interested in getting your take on these sessions because obviously Jamie is an academic and my background is in academia as well. And so
Dr. Wild Feminist.
That's it, Dr. Wild Feminist, that's me.
Totes.
So I said, I'd like to get your take. And she's like, why don't we have some tea afterwards? I said, let's do tea. And she goes, let's do Tea and Take.
Tea and Take.
So hence the fact that this is Tea and Take.
So this could turn into a series of some sort.
Yes, it could.
We may have to use the technologies to assist us down the road. But I figured while we're here together, we will do our opening video of Tea and Take live in the flesh here in Salt Springs, Florida.
Can't beat it.
So what I'd like to chat with you about today is, Ayurveda. And
Yes.
what's the best English pronunciation? Because that's something I always mix up too.
It's okay. Ayurveda.
Ayurveda.
So I always spell it phonetically when I introduce it to people. I, as in the capital letter I, dash ER, dash VAY, dash DEE. Ayurveda.
Awesome.
There you go.
So, for the newbie to this, because many of us in yoga and wellness circles have heard a lot about it, maybe have heard things like Pitta, Vata,
Oh, yes.
the doshas and all that. So,
Yes.
just in a nutshell, what is the system?
Ayurveda, 5,000-year-old healing practice, sister science to yoga. Back in the day, when yogis were yogis, and we were all young and beautiful.
Before Lululemon.
Before Lululemon, absolutely. Way before Lululemon. Ayurveda was a health practice that if you were to approach a guru to become a student in yoga, you had to have done cleansing practices through Ayurveda before a guru would even take you on as a student.
Oh, wow.
So Ayurveda, it comes from this ancient practice, which is basically modern healing medicine, if you would, that comes from the elements. A lot of people know the three doshas, if you would, or three constitutions. And those constitutions come from all of the elements that are made up inside of us. Fire, water, air, space, and earth. And the combination of each of those elements in pairs make up the doshas. They give birth to the doshas. So Vata made up of air and space, Pitta, fire and water, Kapha, earth and water.
Right.
There you go. And each of those doshas has specific functions. All of us have every single dosha inside of us. Vata is responsible for our communication, transportation, that happens inside of the body. So most of the time we think about it in terms of the brain and the central nervous system. Pitta has everything to do with digestion, elimination, and transformation. And not just food and water and drink, but also our experiences. How are we digesting them? How are we transforming them into something that is balancing and productive for us? Or are we harboring it and it's causing us to develop ama or toxicity in the body?
I'm Pitta, so that's why I'm like,
So am I.
makes sense.
And Pitta usually is associated a lot with the digestive system, the eyes, and then Kapha is associated with earth and water and is responsible for the structure, strength, immunity, and lubrication of the body. So bones, ligaments, joints, in addition to our immune system. So in the wintertime when people tend to get very fatigued, they're losing a lot of their, if they get sick, it's because they've lost a lot of ojas, their immunity is not up to par, etc. So we usually try to, introduce some practices that will help them get that, as well as lubrication of the skin.
Cool. As you were speaking there, I must confess I had an image of Captain Planet. Remember Captain Planet?
I do.
From back in the day?
Back in the day.
Ayurveda
That's
Captain
just a
Planet
side note. Yeah.
came up. So.
There you go.
So how did you begin your journey with this healing practice?
I appreciate the question. I started my journey with this because it was actually a healing modality. A couple of things happened early on in my life. Around 18, 19 years old, I was actually diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And went through a series of about 6.5 years of inpatient therapy as well as outpatient therapy. Took every pharmaceutical on the planet that you could imagine. And also did 2.5 years of electroconvulsive therapy. One day, 75 pounds heavier, and completely depressed. And prior to that, a lot of how this got triggered was I was in an accident. I got hit by a car on my bicycle.
Oh, wow.
And so I sustained a lot of injuries, and my athletic career was over. I was a competitive swimmer and a triathlete. Wow. So one thing led to another, and one day I woke up and just said to myself, I can't live like this anymore. This isn't living. At the time, I was seeing an occupational therapist who said, you might want to try yoga, because she was helping me recover from some injuries. And then I decided that I didn't want to take medication anymore. I dumped all of it in the toilet, flushed it down, and said, I need to find something different. Moved from New York City to San Francisco, and got into contact with my first Vaja, which is an Ayurvedic doctor, and introduced me to this. And I was practicing yoga at the same time and started to hear a little bit about it, but like in the early 90s, this was not really that popular of a thing. Yeah. Now you hear a lot of that in yoga studio. And it absolutely healed me. Yeah. And I have not had any depressive or manic symptoms for almost 25 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was a big journey.
And so did you begin your journey to begin practicing shortly after that, offering this to others?
I first had my yoga journey, and as part of that, I also had my first career. Yeah. I started out in K-12 education as a teacher, then I moved into academia.
I think a lot of us have first careers on this path.
We do. We very much do. And then one day I just said, I really want to do this. This is my path. This is what I want to do. And at the time, mental illness was something that like, oh my God, you don't talk about it. And I came from, a very Irish Catholic family that these were things that you didn't really discuss. So I thought of it more as if I go down this path and I become a clinician, I can also be an advocate and share my story that you're so graciously allowing me to do. Cool. So that I can let people know that there are other alternatives, which a lot of folks now know that. Right. But Ayurveda is an amazing healing practice, and it's also a lifestyle. Sure. And so, that's where it came from.
So tell me about the lifestyle.
So the lifestyle, it's all about making choices that are balancing. If you are feeling very low, depressed, etc., doing things that are going to counter that, the right foods that are going to help stimulate you out of that sluggishness or out of that depression. If you are feeling, so there's right foods, there's herbal remedies. There's also just your daily routine, which is known as the Dinacharya. Yeah. Rising with the sun, cleansing practices, yoga practices, pranayama practices, and staying away from things that will cause imbalances, that the body intuitively will tell you, whether it's caffeine, whether it's alcohol, whether it's meat eating, all of these things that can very easily slip us in and out of balance. So there's a whole picture there, and everybody is individually their own person. And so it's not a one-size-fits-all at all. And so it's important that if people are interested in pursuing this path as a healing path and also as a lifestyle path, that they actually work with a clinician, because the clinician is going to be able to give them the specific and in-depth information that they need for their individual situation.
Brilliant. Yeah. That's fantastic. So what kind of training did you do to offer this clinically?
I trained at New World Ayurveda with Dr. Paul Douglas, who has a space that is both in Michigan and also in Maine. Right. So, and did a clinical practice with him, a lot of pulse diagnosis, a lot of tongue analysis, et cetera. And I'm actually off this February to go to Kerala to do my next level of advanced training with more in-depth disease management.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So we actually, my co-author Steve Danziger and I, this is largely his contribution. We dropped the word Ayurveda in our new book on EMDR and mindfulness because he talks about how it was the medicine of the day in Buddha's time, the historical Buddha.
Well, the thing that's interesting, if I may interrupt.
And now I want to hear your take on the Buddhist link to this.
Well, the thing that's very interesting is I always tell people this whenever I do a presentation on the intro to Ayurveda, is that the real is that if the British had never occupied India, we would all be practicing Ayurvedic medicine. So that's just a piece of historical
The more you know.
The more you know.
I need to have that.
Right, the rainbow.
Remember that?
Remember the rainbow?
We're both from the 80s and 90s, so it's also part of the
riff.
The fascinating on part of so
But
much
that's
of
really the truth, because, I mean, Western allopathic medicine was introduced into our culture through the occupation of Great Britain with India.
So if you're willing to share this, somebody like me who's Pitta, what are foods that would be good for me to avoid? And what would, or is this not something you could answer simply? You'd have to do more detail.
Right. I'd have to do a pulse diagnosis, etc. But we'll just say you are over Pitta-ized. Okay.
I've been guilty.
I'm going with that. Okay. What do you think? Is that good? Okay. I'm going with that. So say you have what we call excess Pitta. You want to do things that are going to balance that out. So you want to cool things down. Yeah. So what is not in your best interest are things like alcohol, red meat.
That's good, because 16 years.
There you go.
Out, so.
Perfect.
So no alcohol, no red meat.
No alcohol, no red meat. Nothing overly spicy, like, having fire-breathing salsa or jalapenos.
Don't do too much of that.
Tons of garlic, probably not in your best interest. You want to look at things that are more cooling. At this time of year, even though we're getting to the end of the summer season, we still have, about 3 weeks left, 4 weeks left. Cooling salads, cucumbers, coconut. And also things that will help cool the body down as well. Coconut oil on the skin.
I do love the coconut.
Gotta love the coconut. Yeah. We all embrace the coconut. So things that are going to, anytime there is an excess of something, we want to balance it out with the opposite. And the same thing if there's not enough. So say you didn't have enough fire, that you needed some more, then you want to boost it up with things like turmeric and ginger and things like that, so that it will help stimulate the digestion and all of those kinds of things.
Sounds like there's a lot of intuitive quality to this.
Absolutely.
I've long described myself as a fiery person. I overheat. I feel a sense of that fire.
Totally.
You're like, I got your number.
I'm that number, so I get it.
Totally. So are you able to work with people remotely?
Absolutely.
In your practice? So how can people connect with you?
So my company that my husband and I both own is ZenSpot, ZenSpot. So Zen is in Zen Buddhism, spot like the dog. And we have a website, which is www.zenspotm, like Michael, B like boy, S like Sam, .com. So it's zenspotmindbodyspirit.com. And you can book an appointment right online.
Great.
And if you want to get in touch with me, you can email me at info@zenspotmbs.com.
And I'll tell you, to my folks, so we have a hashtag that we use in the Dancing Mindfulness ICM circles, Redefine Therapy.
Yes.
It's the name of my blog, one of my blogs I keep. It's like the push forward for our movement. And to those of you who follow that movement, this is somebody who's doing that out there in the world. I've had so many great conversations this week in the dock, at the lake, in the darshan room, gritting my teeth as I'm like, I'm leaving.
No, you're not. And I told her she couldn't leave, and she's still here.
I'm still here. It's been a challenging week, but that's what I love about places like this, where there's a magnetic pull, that you meet the people you're supposed to meet. So until the next time, stay posted, connect with her.
Please do.
I love Zen like Buddhism, spot like dog.
Yep, Zen like Buddhism, spot like dog. So. MBS, mindbodyspirit.com.
This is Tea and Take.
Thank you. Cheers.